Hello and welcome to Ham Nation, episode 583 for October 9th, 2024. And hello, everybody. Welcome to Ham Nation here on the Ham Radio Crash Course. Appreciate you coming out. We do have a very special guest, Robert Wareham. He is actually on the western side of North Carolina, coming to us from generator power because he's been out of power for a little while. We're going to go directly to the interview. We're starting right there so we can get him back to what he's been working on. So I'm tossing to Amanda.
Well, thank you so much, Josh. And Robert Wareham in Zero ESQ is joining us. Thank you so much for being here, Robert. I'm going to call you a survivor at this point in time. You're from the outskirts of Asheville, North Carolina. Why don't you tell us what's been going on?
Well, we live 15 miles southeast of the city of Asheville. We're right in the Blue Ridge Mountains. In fact, I drive under the Blue Ridge Parkway when I go to and from the Home Depot every day in a little town called Fairfield. And we're just south of the towns of Black Rock and Swannanoa. And these were the areas that were hardest hit by Hurricane Helene. We were on the dirty side of the storm. We received the wrath of its wind as well as its rain. We're at about 3,000 feet here, but we've got peaks around us that are up in the 4,000s. And when that tropical storm hit those mountains, they let loose a torrent, and there was little place for it to go except in the creeks and canyons around us. And it's been a pretty devastating experience. It's hard to believe it was 2 weeks ago, 12 days.
It is. It's crazy. Now, you're new there, and so you and your neighbors kind of got together and survived together, didn't you?
Well, I keep telling everybody, if there's a silver lining, it will be the billions of dollars that come in to rebuild this area. But secondly, and more importantly, is we have met people that it probably would have taken us a decade to meet. And in little less than 2 or 3 days, they are like family members. We're on a first name basis. We're all helping each other. The churches have rallied. It was the locals who opened the roads. We had trees and power lines across our road. We had washed out road areas. They came out. We had mudslides over the roads. Locals came out with tractors, backhoes, ATVs. And we were also joining together to feed them. I'm having been the SEC and the section manager in Colorado for many years. I saw this coming, so I got 10 gallons of bottled water and I loaded up on gasoline, and I'm glad we did that. Although we started to get concerned at about day 3 or 4 because we still couldn't get to town to get any provisions. It's just been, but the victory here is the victory of the individual, the victory of charities, the victory of the churches. This overwhelmed local government, state government completely unprepared, and FEMA didn't show up for a week.
Wow.
So be ready for your 72 hours, folks. I know I've preached that in the past, but have your have your stay kit. Have 72 hours of provisions ready because you may need them.
And maybe a little bit extra for your neighbors that aren't quite as prepared. But also, so Robert, it's 2 weeks now and you still don't have any power or cell phone service?
Any power. In fact, Duke Energy published a new map. We're just on the edge of the yellow area. If you're in the red area, it means they have to replace substations and major infrastructure. In our area, it's miles of line. I would guess in a 2-mile stretch of Garin Creek Road where I live. If anyone wants to Google that, just look it up on Google Earth. Garin Creek Road and Falcon Crest Drive is exactly where I live. There's probably 25 power poles down in a 2-mile length of ground. And the problem is there's no land left where the power line or power pole needs to go because it is washed.
So it took a long time for the supplies to show up, but you did, you came underneath the Chinook actually flying in, the first help that you saw, right?
We did.
Josh has a video of that.
We had heard a rumor. That a Chinook was going to bring us supplies. I've forgotten what day this was. It was about a week ago. And I had taken my neighbor down to get his car because the little road, they had patched one washout so he could get his car. He'd parked it on the other side of the washout. And this thing was coming in this is literally next door to my house.
That's
And,
amazing.
and as I came over the ridge, this thing came down and I hit the prop wash on it. And I got on GMRS radio. And by the way, have lots of those blister pack radios around. I handed them out to all my neighbors. It made all the difference in the world. We all stayed in touch. I ran welfare nets every 4 hours to make sure that the elderly in our community were fine, to make sure so we could coordinate things if we needed other stuff done. GMRS has its place in these situations, and we used them. I had a dozen of them. I just handed them out, and so we rallied everybody around. I was right under the prop wash of that thing when it landed. Shook my 3/4 ton pickup, and I showed up, and the captain, when he got off the chopper, I said, "So what's the plan?" He says, "There is no plan. Just distribute these where they're needed." So that's what we did. We got them out. We were still landlocked at that time. We couldn't get in or out. So we needed that chopper to come, and they were great people from the South Carolina National Guard.
So they didn't rescue anyone either. They just dropped some supplies off and took off.
Up supplies and went back to wherever they go. Okay. There was a rescue in which we were involved, and I say it's divine providence because I was told about it by just literally a bystander. I said, "We'll go look." A gentleman confined to a wheelchair at the top of Owen B. Cove Road. And it looked like, I can't describe it. There were dents in the asphalt from boulders that had rolled down the canyon. Oh. We took off on trails through the forest that we were using the Oh My God handle in the Polaris up there. And we got as far as we could. And then my partner walked the rest of the way up the hill, got his geographic coordinates. And as we returned, from that, we couldn't find anybody who was willing to take the report. And wouldn't you know, he got a text from his cousin who said, "I'm in charge of evac dispatches for the National Guard." So we gave him the information directly, bypassing bureaucracy. And the next day he was plucked off the local mountaintop by a medevac helicopter. So
I would have to say that is definitely divine.
That's divine intervention if there ever was.
Amazing. So how many people live in your community?
Well, let's see here. We got about a dozen people just in our little development here. We had some elderly people. We had one woman, she was having some panic attacks. She's a widow, and my wife went up and sat with her, and we got a hold of her sons, and I jokingly told him I would trade him his mother for 30 gallons of gasoline. And I said, none of the cheap stuff. I want high octane. So we got her out, which was a great relief for her, probably just as much a relief for us, because my wife tends to worry about things like that. And then she went into the mode of being the community chef and cooking for everybody. We literally have had beautiful weather since the storm. We've been sitting around outside under beautiful starry skies, realizing that there's death and destruction around us, but thankful for God's providence in that we had serious damage.
Now, all of you are on well water, so you rely on pumps, so you have to have power to have water, running water, correct?
Yeah, and my little Generacs, while they do a great job, I have two of them paired together, the 3300, so they only give me 120 volts. But another company, a shout out to Home Depot. Holy cow. They brought in not just truckloads of merchandise needed, but every employee down at the Home Depot came from another state. They came up here to man the store so that the local employees could take care of their problems. They had truckloads of generators. I went down and bought a 120, 240 volt, 30 amp Ryobi generator for $850. Did a little unauthorized modification of my circuit panel, put in a sub panel, and I have a water well and hot water, which made me a hero to my wife. I've replicated that with my neighbors. It isn't a code, but neither is their road. So that's my story.
Oh, it's just an amazing. Well, it's an amazing story, first of all. But do you have Starlink? Is that how you've had connectivity?
Ooh, I have to tell you, that's what made us the hub of the neighborhood. We had
Okay.
people walking 2 to 3 miles to get access to our Starlink. And if you can believe this, I actually had a Ubiquity outside external access point that you can crank up high power. So I took and put it on one of the posts on my front porch, pointed towards the neighborhood. We put a sign down at the road and said internet access with phone. And people have been coming by to this day. They're still coming up here and using internet and making their phone calls. That was the lifeline for people being able to get out and say, I'm alive, because without that, there was no way of getting out. It was a colossal failure of the cellular network. One of the local mayors came up and said, Big V cellular company sold us a bill of goods on their reliability and nothing. They were completely reliant on Big V and nothing worked, and it still doesn't work. It's
Amazing.
all down.
So no cell phones whatsoever. Just it's wild.
No cell phones, no texting.
Wow.
No.
Well, I'm really glad you and Jen are okay. And if the people that don't know Robert, he is a born leader, and I know he took the reins and helped all of his neighbors, and it's just what he would do. So we appreciate it so much. Robert, anything that you want to tell our viewers about surviving or keeping it together?
Yeah. Take preparedness seriously wherever you live. Who would think in the mountains of Western North Carolina that we would have to deal with a hurricane? We would think, oh, a little rain, some wind. No, be prepared. Take charge, own the situation, and have your supplies.
All right. And I guess there was no looting there either, right?
Well, when everybody around is wearing a pistol, there's very little looting going on.
Okay, Josh, you said there's some questions from.
Yeah, Brett Glass asks, is the South Carolina races or Aries, are they active? They said they might be, and what have you seen in that space, Robert?
Well, I can't speak for South Carolina because I'm about 20 miles north of the state line between North and South Carolina. I'm sure they are. I mean, I did do what we tell people to do: make sure your family and your friends and neighbors are taken care of first. So I wasn't checking. I do know that I did receive phone calls when you got occasional phone service from both of the amateur radio clubs I joined when I first came here, and they were doing a welfare check on me. And I said, I'm fine. We're doing great. I'm sure they're out there working. It's just my hands have been too full. As I told Jeff Ryan, I said, I'm not a responder in this event. I'm a survivor.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I guess he said South Carolina, but is there a North Carolina Aries and Races? Were they active, or I guess you were too busy, like you said?
Yeah. North Carolina Aries and Races. Actually, what they have in North Carolina is much like Colorado in that they have Aries, and then they have an auxiliary communications Oxcom group. They are sort of complementary to one another. The problem is that dirty side of the storm went right up to Boone, North Carolina, which is also where the section manager for North Carolina lives. So I've been oblivious. I'll be interested to read the accounts in QST and other places as to what went on around me. But I was here, and for lack of, they were looking toward me because I be somebody who knew what he was doing in terms of an emergency, and so whether I wanted it or not, the mantle of leadership fell to me, and so I was taking care of my own congregation, as it were.
Very good.
Yeah.
And you guys have your county alone has been hit hard with the death toll. Unfortunately, I know that there's no final word on that.
Asheville is Buncombe County. We're a small county, really a small county. And they've already confirmed 74 deaths. And I know that right over the hill from my house, they're using cadaver dogs and they're finding body parts because of the boulders and things that were in this rapid moving water. So it's devastating. I think the losses will be in the hundreds.
My goodness, that's devastating. Any other questions there, Josh?
Yeah, one from SRD Schmidt. Have any of your neighbors developed a new interest in ham radio as a result of this experience?
Good question.
Oh, you bet they have.
I bet.
In fact, there's a tower up on Little Pisgah Peak that I've been trying to get on, and I have a feeling that I have new justification. In fact, I have a letter that I wrote to a gentleman that owns the top of the peak, where I talked about how we could be isolated by storms and mudstorms. And I sent that letter to him 6 months ago. So, yeah, there's a real interest. All of my neighbors saw the value of having radio communications. And I have also already said that I will do licensing courses at the fire station or the community hall when we can get to them.
Yeah.
Or we'll do them on Zoom. But absolutely, this will start the effort to get everybody, much like we did in Boulder County. Remember up there in Boulder County following the big fire?
Absolutely.
We got everybody licensed up in the hills. We had the Mountain Radio Network. Yeah, we're going to do the same thing here in the Upper Guerin Creek.
Yeah,
community.
a lot of first responders got really interested because they wanted ways to be able to talk to the community as well. So that's great.
One more question. Aside from the Starlink, which sounds like it was greatly successful, which is great, what were, I guess, some of the more common modes of communication or the most effective ways that you guys stayed in contact?
GMRS and Starlink. AT&T. I was up because of the ferocious nature of the storm at about 5:30 a.m. on Friday. I looked out my backyard and I had a river running through it. I'm just blessed. It just ran off, but it was running down into this creek that washed out the road. But we have, because I believe in redundancy, we have AT&T, which is DSL out where I live, believe it or not. I had gig speed fiber in my house in Panama. I have DSL in North Carolina.
That's weird.
And we lost power. We lost AT&T, DSL. We lost telephone, landline, all at the same time. And it's easy to see why. I went down, took pictures. Here's the 100-pair cable lying in strands across the highway. So nothing worked other than just local communications, ham radio, and Starlink. And God bless Elon Musk. There it is. There's my DSL line. Looking good. So Elon Musk has flown in hundreds of Starlinks. It has not burped once. I'm talking to you on it right now. I can't say enough good about Starlink. Even if you get fiber, have a portable Starlink as backup.
Well, Robert, you would have
Robert,
thought...
on your GMRS, was that simplex or through a repeater?
No, there's actually a good question, Gordo, because there's quite a few GMRS repeaters. We just busted open. I used to do a lot of special events back in Colorado with the chamber and things. And so I had, 10 Motorola GMRS blister pack radios, as I call them. But they were all there, and I keep a Go kit, and I keep a bunch of AA batteries. And because we're on hills, it actually worked pretty well. And we're all very close together. But it just created this sense of security and wellness. And I can tell that every night there was no moon the time of the storm, it was dark on Friday and Saturday night. And I got on there and I said, this is your 7 p.m. welfare check. And I just went around and called roll. And everybody checked in. And I said, I'll be back here at 7 in the morning to check in on you again. And that's what we did. And that's how we coordinated support for everybody. So radio is radio. And we'll get people licensed up here for ham, but don't discount the value of even just little short distance GMRS radio.
Very important.
The ability for people in crisis to communicate with one another is vital. And that's the one thing that was missing with local government. They just got on their briefings and they looked like deer in the headlights. And they're inexperienced. They just weren't trained in emergency management. And so we were able to at least maintain calm here and get things moving. And the more progress that got made opening the roads and things, the more excited we got. In fact, one of my neighbors said, "Yeah, I had steak and potatoes last night. If this is roughing it, I'm signing up." So we're those of us who have survived, we're doing well.
So
Great.
that
Keep
was
in your
simplex.
thoughts and prayers. So yeah, it
Simplex.
was simplex.
Got it.
Simplex.
Okay.
Well, Robert, who would have thought you came from California, lived in Colorado, went to Panama, and your natural disaster would happen in North Carolina? That's just crazy.
I know. I left Panama because of all the power outages and my water kept going away. Now look at me. So,
Unbelievable. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking your time. And of course, our love to Jen as well, and to all your neighbors. You guys are very strong out there in North Carolina.
I'm honored to be on here. You guys, you're legends, all of you here on this show. So
Thank you.
I appreciate the invite to come on. Thank you very much. And
Thanks.
pray
Robert.
for the folks that have
Absolutely.
lost so much, including members of their family. Please keep them in their thoughts.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Robert.
All right.
All
Good night,
right,
all.
Gord- Good night.
Thank you, Robert. Wow.
Well, that
So
was just wow.
I guess we didn't do the round the horn because we wanted to go straight to Robert. So I figured we'd catch up really quick. How are you all doing? Don's out this week. He's having a bit of a fun time. We'll let him talk about it maybe next time we're live. But we still have Amateur Radio Newsline, but filling in, I guess, is just going to be us. So Gordo, how you been? How's it going?
We're fine, and we're tuned into yet another hurricane right now, ready on Tampa, and we're hearing them on Coast Guard channels. And those of you with an HF radio, as we're doing here, I'll give you some frequencies, and you can hear some of the heroic activities that the U.S. Coast Guard and the auxiliary is doing down in the Tampa area tonight.
Yeah, chat saying the Cat 3 just made landfall. So wow, back to back. Amanda, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I mean, it's crazy all of the natural disasters that are happening right now in our country. So my thoughts are definitely now with the people in southern Florida. And yes, it just hit. I have been listening in the background to the repeaters there over Broadcastify, and they're reporting a lot of stuff. There was already an hour and a half ago, there was roofs blowing off at the Circle K. I don't know where. I can't tell you where because I didn't catch that information, but still, it's going to be catastrophic, and our thoughts are with everybody trying to survive that down there.
Indeed.
What else? So we have Newsline, and we also have a special event we're going to be talking about with the General. We've got the General on tonight, so stay tuned. And we also have Hammock, Canna, or What Amit. So stick around. We got a great rest of the show. And Robert's just amazing. Once again, I can't believe he's not on CNN or Fox News talking about this stuff. It's probably because nobody can get to them, but he's amazing story there. So, Gordo, it's up to you now.
All right, well, thanks. And for those wishing to tune in to some of the activities going on by U.S. Coast Guard, the frequency just above 75 meters, 4125. 4125, it's upper sideband, and you'll hear it clearly on almost any kind of an antenna up to about 300 miles away. For those of you a little further away, try the Coast Guard channel 8291. 8291, that is also upper sideband, and these are publicly known channels for emergency comms, and the Coast Guard is very active on those frequencies. Well, let's take a look and see what is keeping a lot of these stations still on the air, where others have been on the air for maybe a few hours and then their batteries died. So want to first of all thanks Kevin Zanjani. Kevin is with the BioInnoPower team that has shipped out so many batteries to emergency groups in the past. And Kevin has this technology really down pat for which amateur radio operators really enjoy. Well, first of all, every ham should have their grab and go kit. And Robert really brought that home. Be ready for anything. And we've got HF on the top, and that's a Land Mobile Part 90 radio for the Coast Guard Auxiliary and Coast Guard on the bottom. And it goes into it's called iPortable. We saw them at Dayton, Ohio years ago, and it's a wonderful carrying case. It's not waterproof, but it is really sealed well. And you'll see right above that rig, I've got little LEDs that shine down, not out in your face, but down. And those come from Wired Communications, Roger and Kim. But this is the entire station that's ready to go on either ham channels via the ICOM, the old ICOM 706, 160 meters through 70 centimeters, as well as looks like a Yaesu I have down there for the Coast Guard use. But we got to keep this thing on the air. So I, about 6 years ago, was introduced to BioInnoPower lithium iron phosphate batteries. And I thought, well, let's slip one of these in there. And this is a 12 amp hour, make that 20 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. And that is what powers the entire rig. Now, you may think, oh my gosh, lithium ion, that's going to like explode if you try and jump. No, this is lithium iron phosphate, and it's safer because the oxygen in lithium iron phosphate is bonded tightly with the phosphorus bonds versus just a traditional lithium ion battery that does not like to be overcharged or severely discharged. So this is safe technology, and it's what hams all over the country are using. And best of all, it's only half the weight of what could be a comparable 20 amp hour AGM battery. So everything slides together, and we're ready to roll with our emergency case for almost any emergency. Well, we paid a visit to BioInnoPower to take a look at this technology, and I said, well, it's good to look at it like this, but I want to see the inside. So I said, well, we'll start first with a pictorial and show you the batteries. And they go all the way from that little one right there. Looks like about a 6 amp hour battery, 10 amp hour. Next one up on the blue line is maybe 12 amp hours. Then there's a 15, a 12 amp hour is my favorite, 15, 20, 40, and then they have the 100 and 200 amp hour batteries. Wow, this sounds like great technology. It is, but hang on when we talk about amp hours, because when we talk about ampere hours, you may be thinking about cold cranking amps to start that 897 Chevy with a 574 engine and a 392. It's going to draw about 100 amps on that starter. No, a lithium iron phosphate is not intended to give you 100 cold cranking amps. It's intended to be half the weight, last 4 times as long on recharges, like 2,000 recharges, and you'll see it's made up of little 3.6 volt batteries, and they have different batteries. They're all put together here in Southern California, welded together, and they've got a machine that does that. And they have groups of batteries, and then they have a battery management system that sits on top, and then the entire thing is heat shrink. And what the BMS system does is during charging, and it should take a special charger, which BioInno sometimes includes if you're ordering a couple of these batteries. And that charging circuit will ensure that each of the cell sets get the right kind of charge for the right amount of time, and it does all the work for you. Best of all, it's quiet technology, no switching noise coming out of this thing. And on the bigger packs, this is about a 40 amp hour pack, it's absolutely quiet. Nothing gets warm in there. And lithium iron phosphate charges in about an hour to an hour and a half. So you can pump in there 10 or 15 amps without it going foof, or like lithium ion, if you overcharge it, it can explode in flames. Not lithium iron. And that's all that the BioInnoPower Kevin sells. And by the way, he's a ham, KI6 Delta Hotel, Quebec, and you can meet him with me up at Pacificon coming up in another week and a half. All of the bigger batteries get a load test, and they test it on a computer. They keep records of it. And the most amazing thing about the lithium iron phosphate batteries is once the battery hits 14.8 volts, the internal device will turn off anything trying to force more voltage into it by taking the battery out of line. And as soon as the battery realizes that everything's okay, it comes back up online. This is important to know because if you were to take a solar panel, and we all have solar panels, and apply red to red and black to black on this 100 amp hour battery, it'll go boop. And you may hear something, but it's not anything going wrong. It's saying, wait a minute, hitting me, please, with this amount of 17 or 18 volts. I only want to see 14.3, so it pops out. So if you're going to be charging in the field in an emergency, you folks down in Florida, be sure that the panel is shaded, then attach the panel, and then bring the panel back up to its higher voltage, and then this will be very, very happy. But it automatically resets. Now, regarding the deep cycle batteries, yeah, they're great. We used to have them in our van. You can mount them upside down or whatever. The lithium iron phosphate is 1/2 the weight, actually even lighter yet than that, for the same amp hours. But remember, the deep cycle battery, their amp hours are down to 50% of capacity of the battery, whereas lithium iron phosphate, those rated amp hours are down to 90%. And that's good news for those of us that operate HF, which means that it's going to keep that 13.8, that's the working voltage, at 13.8, all the way down to about the last amount of time that the battery is going to continue to perform. So unlike a lead acid battery or other types of gelled cells that slowly decay in voltage, the lithium iron just remains hot. And we can look at that with a voltmeter. This one was used for field day, and we're down to 13.24. So it really got a good use of those two batteries in parallel. And yeah, you can parallel them if you want, or if you have a 24-volt application, you can series them. And here we have the 20 amp hour. You can see it on the left and operating an HF radio for field day. And we went all field day, and that little 20 amper just kept the HF 100-watt radio perking. Again, down at the beach when we do our November, and we're still planning on it, get together, you never want to take a solar panel and apply it directly to any battery with a battery management system, because the management system is going to go, oh my God, you're giving me 18 volts, I'm out of here. And it electronically opens the circuit until you were to turn that panel toward the sand, then apply the panel, and then slowly raise the panel, and then battery says, fine, I'll deal with that. And the BMS system will keep it charging up to about 14.8 before it clicks off or levels off. Chip Margelli, K7JA, silent key, we'll miss him a lot. But he says, I don't think it's going to run all day long with my kind of chatting on HF. We went 2 days, and that battery, 20 amp hour, was still perking with his CW communicating with Japan back in November. And again, we look at the voltage, and it's always good to watch your voltage, either digital or watch your voltage on an analog meter, and make sure that you don't overstress a battery by pulling it for a wet battery more than 50% down. But for the lithium ion battery, you'll pull it down, and if you forget to, lithium iron phosphate battery, if you pull it down and forget to take it out of circuit, the automatic monitoring system, the BMS in there, will automatically pull it out of circuit when it gets down to about 11.5. And here we are again, and you can see to the left, good old analog voltmeter and an amp meter, and there's the Bioenno battery over there on the left side. So good voltage monitoring is essential, and we hope that those in the Florida area have capabilities to monitor the voltage. We look at it when we're doing our transverter work on 10 gigahertz. The reason is any little fluctuation at 144, the LO, is going to 10 times be worse up at 10,000 megahertz. And this battery, when you apply or pull current from it, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 amps, you look at that meter and it just doesn't budge. It just stays at anywhere from 13.5 to 13.8. This is after the end of this last contest down at 13.05, but it's a steady 05, unlike a wet battery that when you apply current, it drops down a volt or so. Not with lithium iron phosphate. Just amazing. And I like the analog meters because when you apply a load to them, there's no mistaking that it's staying nice and steady. Now, they also make emergency packs, and there's probably some of these packs in use down in Florida tonight and tomorrow. And they also tie in a true sine wave inverter, so they have 110 volts. But look at those meters. Absolutely important to have metering on any type of emergency battery that you may be using in a shelter or a disaster area. And that's Kevin, Active Ham. A week from now, we'll be at PacificCon, and he'll have the batteries taken apart so you can take a look at those cells that you see off to his left or to the right side of the screen near the coffee cup there. And those individual cells are what make up the lithium iron phosphate. So good news is lithium iron phosphate is not going to burst into flames if you over or undercharge it. It has a battery management system that's going to keep you safe, because in an emergency, when you're operating out of a shelter, sometimes things get out of hand or there's a voltage spike on somebody pulling down or adding too much charging, and you're still safe with that battery. So we encourage all of you, if you get a chance, certainly tune in to the ham frequencies for the hurricane tonight. 14.345, 14.325, 14.325 for the Hurricane Center. There was traffic up at 14.340 and 345. And right now in the evening, 72.65, 72.75, down to 72.45. We're seeing a lot of hams, hearing them right here on HF from shelters, and they get a lot of traffic coming in, third-party traffic. You just are asked, can someone handle third-party traffic too? Take that call, go off frequency, write down ARRL message number, or mom and dad are fine, but the house just floated away, and make that phone call. And hopefully we're making positive phone calls. So stay safe, everybody, in this wild weather. And Amanda, I'll go back to you if we have any questions.
Thanks, Gordo. My personal question is, give me a baseline of investment and just your easy 20 amp hour battery and a little did the Bioenno solar panel, like little fold up one, like give us a cost for that.
The batteries are twice as expensive as AGM batteries, actually more than twice. A 20 amp hour is going to be a couple $100. 40 amp hours is going to be $400, and the 100 amp hours is about almost $1,000. So you can figure that out. The little 6 amp hour battery, that's going to go for about $60. So
well worth the investment.
Say again?
But well worth the investment.
Well, they are, because they go for 3,000 charges, and most AGM batteries will only do about 600 recharges from getting pulled way down. So it's going to last. My batteries so far are lasting, 6 and 7 years, and I'm looking at them here, and they're still cooking. Now, the solar panels, there's all sorts of different types of solar panels, and the new MMT circuitry that pulses them. And I don't have costs on them, but they're typical of what a solar panel will cost, and that is one that's going to give you like 2 amps is going to be at least a couple $100, and one that's going to give you 4 or 5 amps, probably 300 and more. And on the flexible panels, you want to make absolutely sure that you keep them clean, because any little bird dropping, and if there's a series connection where the bird dropped, you're going to lose a lot of charging current. But solar panels, again, on the Bio-Power batteries, just be sure and have the panel shaded. Add the panel to the battery, and then slowly bring the panel up in the sunlight, and now you're set to go. As long as you keep it connected, it won't overcharge the battery because it'll self-regulate at about 14.8 volts.
Got it. And to everyone in the chat room, we're not talking a Bofing here. We're talking ICOM or Flex. So it is pricier, but you get what you pay for, right? So that's
they have come down a touch. Even Bio-Eno is a little bit cheaper, but that's good. They're available at 100 amp hours at Bio-Eno is $862 right now. So that.
Yeah, but remember, it's not going to start that 357
no.
Chevy engine.
Not at all.
Goodness, no. I think that's all the questions we had. Did you see one, Josh, that I might have missed?
No, I think Gordo covered a lot. Everybody was commenting on great job, and thanks for sharing all this information, Gordo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome. And again, tonight on the hurricane, on the Coast Guard channels, your radio won't transmit because they're NTIA channels out of the radio's transmit circuitry. And on the ham channels, do not transmit to volunteer that you're listening and you could take traffic. They're getting so many calls in that they'll suggest that you go to a certain frequency to be able to handle outbound traffic. So don't tie up the channels by saying, hey, Gordo's here, and they don't want to hear that. They just want to do traffic.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gordo. We appreciate it. I think we're going to go to ICOM.
Keep your competitive contesting edge with ICOM. ICOM's high-powered base stations cut through pileups, letting you work the bands and record those contacts. Contest from the comfort of your home or remotely with the RSBA One app. Heard it, worked it, logged it. ICOM heard the call and answered. The ICPW2 is here. Take your contesting experience to the next level with ICOM's industry-first linear amplifier, which includes DPD, digital pre-distortion, and a built-in 2x6 automatic antenna selector for SO2R single-operator 2-radio operation. With the IC7610, faint signals are no longer challenging for DXers and contesters. This high-performance SDR radio changed the world's definition of an SDR transceiver. This high-powered base station features an RF direct sampling system, 110 dB RMDR that can pick out the faintest of signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals, an independent dual receiver, dual digicell, and more. This is the SDR every ham wants. For more information about ICOM's amateur radios and to locate a dealer, visit icomamerica.com/amateur today. For the love of ham radio.
And a huge thank you to ICOM. We really do appreciate the sponsorship here on Ham Nation. Every time we go live, there's a little button you can click on, and if you enter some information, you'll get added to our every episode giveaway that we do, and we give away swag packs. And the winners of those swag packs get added to a growing list of everybody who's won for a radio that they give away every month. ICOM, we really do appreciate it. So the winners of the swag pack this month are Adam Y, KK7YPQ, Perry W, K6SYW, and Paul B, KC90. And let's just check. What are we doing for October? Let's see. October is a 2730 Alpha. It's actually one of my favorite VHF, UHF mobile radios for analog communication, a fantastic radio. Full duplex, and it'll do satellite stuff with that as well. So check that out. Amanda, am I going back to you to talk to General now?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Then we'll go to Newsline. Yeah.
All
General's
right.
been here, sitting here so patient.
What? He is, but he's going to have to wait a second because there's Gordo again. That's the wrong person. I don't know what happened.
Hi, Gordo.
I don't know what happened. We lost everything. So 1 second, we'll get General on. But go ahead and start, and I'll switch it over.
Okay. Well, to lighten the mood, we're going to talk about the scratching post. And as soon as we see General's beautiful face there, look at that.
Through the power of the
You got such a
internet, General is with us.
Yeah, you have such a great background going on there.
Oh,
Anyhow,
yeah.
General, you do this the scratching post. I'm going to just let you tell us what it is and why you do it and when it is. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Amanda. It's hard to follow those last two folks. I'm going to tell you what, Gordo and Richard, I'd tell you, or Robert, excuse me, mine pales. But anyway, we do the scratching post. And what it is, we're celebrating, and we've mentioned in times past, the history of the scratching post, which has been going on since its conception, the history since 1939. But what it is that it is a 4x4 by 8 foot tall post with little notches in it, and you can kind of got it right there on the QRZ page, and it sits in a corner of Mill and Main Street. To where you can go after you get done eat lunch or whatever, or just coming down the road, you can scratch your back, and we're celebrating the particular history. And the history is that back in 1939, a gentleman by Mr. Bailey had an insurance company. He decided he was going to do a gimmick, as they say, or something to get folks to come into his insurance company by scratching his insurance with your back on the post. So in 1939, he put the post in on the north side of Main Street. And for many years, until he closed, the light would sit there on the north side. Well, back in 1945, he retired and then gave his post give that post that they had on the Main Street to his son, and his son moved it across the street, and where it's been sitting ever since 1945. It currently sits in front of the Chinese restaurant. However, from 1937 to 1939, that restaurant was known as a coffee pot cafe. Now we're getting to the good part. So anyway, we had a lot of history, and in the times, many folks throughout the years have come by and just scratched their back on that post throughout the years. From Mr. Lester, Tom Lester, if you're familiar with the Green Acres, he was the farmhand, and he dropped by many times in Loosedale. And when he did, he was stopped by the Coffee Pot. Back then it was called. Now it's the Chinese restaurant. And he would eat dinner or lunch there. Of course, sometimes, we don't know for sure, but they also had the 5-inch meringue pies. So that's kind of a big pie. But the last time that he was noted coming into the area was when he actually came to a funeral for one of his friends located in the area back in the 1990s. And so he came by and scratched his back. Some other folks that came by that you may know were some baseball players that you may be familiar with. Dizzy Dean, country music artists. Now, these are some of the folks who are older. I won't say old, but older. Country music artists like Tennessee Ernie Ford, Ernest Tubbs, and we're going way back. Also, some aspiring new folks that you may be familiar with during that time. Actors known as Ronald Reagan, of course, was one of our presidents here in the past. And also Kirk Douglas showed up, Gene Autry, and Roy Rogers. A lot of those folks came by because US 98, where it's located, was the main hub. Now, since then, we've had the bypass, which actually goes around town 98, but it went right through smack middle of town. So a lot of these actors and singers and stuff like that, when they were making a circuit back in those days, would come by and eat dinner at the diner and scratch their post or scratch their back on the post.
Very nostalgic, for sure. Mm-hmm. I love it. And it's the viewers, they love it too. Like, this is pretty cool. Who talks about this stuff? Nobody. It's cool. Tell us more about the pie.
I'm not a lemon meringue type person. I like lemon on my chicken and on my steak. That's about as far as it goes. So I'm not sure about that. But being a diabetic, I probably would stay away from that. Coming this Saturday is where we're going to operate, and it's looking to be beautiful weather. I mean, I'm sorry for all the other stuff that's happening, but in South Mississippi now, we've had our share. And we've been without power for 12, 14 days at a time as well. Wow. But this Saturday, October 12th, we'll be operating at the city park downtown. And the whole idea is not only to get out and promote the history of the scratching post, but mainly with that is to help promote amateur radio, get it out to the public as well, for not only as a hobby, but also, as we see here recently and even today, for emergency communication. So hopefully maybe maybe some of the after effects of some of these storms, we'll be getting more folks locally interested in the hobby, or reaffirm it with the local EMS areas that that we still are viable. So
I
we'll
think
be working
so.
20 meters and 40 meters, digital and voice. You can find the information on the K5K page. So we got lunch, so we got food, so maybe people will show up. So we'll have a good lunch.
You can't have a turnout without food. I'm telling you. Yeah.
No,
Um,
that's good.
That's amazing. Well, it's good that you're promoting amateur radio to your community. So we thank you for that. And I'm glad you're here to let everyone know. So Saturday, like just daytime hours?
Yes, we're going to set up at 6 a.m. in the morning. I'll probably be there at 5 just because I always get to where we do early, and I'll have flashlights and the headlights showing the way. We're going to set up from 6 to 8 and operate from 8 to 6 from the morning to the evening. So
Fantastic.
anyway, it's what you laughing at, Gory? So
That's great.
it's not a big thing, but a lot of our folks enjoy. They come out, they sit around, and we get a few people to operate, and a lot more people sit around and eat. So whichever you want to do, operate or eat, and usually one of the two wins out, which is eating over the operating. But anyway, we have a good time.
Very good, General. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight and telling us about this. And there's a lot of special event stations. I'm going to mention another one in the Fire Prevention Week is this week. So they're out on the air too. So make sure everybody works them. So General, anything else you want the audience to know? Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, quick question. How many contacts did you make last year, General?
Well, we had less than 100. We had a lot of QRM. Last year was a busy contest weekend. So some of the big guns are out using amplifiers. Of course, at the park, it's kind of hard to tote around the AL1200 fairly easily. So we didn't do a whole lot of that. So it was about 100. The year before that was about 150. So this is our third year doing the event. So that's not too bad for some beginners.
Not at all.
Absolutely. It's just important that you get people on the air and get them to feel comfortable. I don't think it's really about the quantity at that point in time. It's about the message.
It's the camaraderie that we're doing, and developing the interaction. And a lot of our folks are newer to HF, so they actually learn the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts, the proper procedures. And of course, all that will transition if we ever get needed again with emergency management. So we'll actually have a little bit of radio practice, and they won't be shy and bashful, and they can kind of know, okay, this is what you do, you don't do, type thing.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for everything you do, and I can't wait to hear you on the air this weekend.
Thank you much. Appreciate the time.
All right. Let's see. We're going to go to Newsline next.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2449, this is Ham Nation Headlines for Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Our top story is Hurricane Helene, which swept through the United States' southern states, bringing what's being called unprecedented tragedy. Amateur radio can be at its best when times are at their worst, and Randy Sly, W4XJ, shares an example of that in one area of hardest-hit North Carolina.
Since making landfall on the evening of September 26th, Hurricane Helene not only left a trail of devastation, but also produced thousands of acts of heroism, especially in the remote areas of the United States impacted by floodwaters. In addition to emergency personnel and first responders, those involved included helicopter pilots, teams with pack mules, and other volunteers, including hams providing emergency communications. Examples of life-saving communication could be heard around the clock on the W4HTP repeater at Mount Mitchell, North Carolina. On Saturday morning, September 28th, Dan Gittrow, K2DMG, was in his ham shack and knew that the area was experiencing heavy rains. He got on the W4HTP repeater, which was surprisingly not busy, put out his call to see if anyone needed assistance, and immediately received a number of responses from hams in the flooded areas. Since that time, he and the other net controls handled hundreds of health and welfare calls, maintaining continuous communications with the areas of western North Carolina most seriously affected. Hurricane Helene produced a path of destruction for nearly 800 miles from Florida's Big Bend to Asheville, North Carolina, and farther north, leaving over 180 dead and hundreds more missing. The aftermath of this Category 4 hurricane brought floodwaters of historic proportions and spawned more than 50 tornadoes in Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, the Carolinas, and nearby states. This is Randy Sly, W4XJ.
As Major Hurricane Milton takes aim at the Florida Gulf Coast, Newsline will be monitoring the ham radio activity. In the world of amateur radio satellites, a major milestone has been reached.
The International Amateur Radio Union, which coordinates the radio frequencies used by ham radio satellites, announced that it recently processed request number 1,000 for a satellite frequency. The IARU's Satellite Frequency Coordination Panel has faced new challenges in recent years with the increasing popularity and growth of CubeSats. With less onerous costs to launch these small satellites, the focus has been on carefully managing the spectrum and ensuring minimal interference with terrestrial services. The IARU issued a statement saying, quote, "As Earth's orbit becomes more crowded, the IARU's work in frequency coordination will remain critical for future missions," end quote.
Newsline anchor Neil Rapp, WB9 VPG. And in Puerto Rico, the site where the iconic Arecibo radio telescope once stood is being readied for a new role in the world of science.
Arecibo C3, the U.S. National Science Foundation's Educational Science Center, is preparing a full opening soon at the site where the legendary Arecibo Observatory reigned until damages suffered in 2020 compelled the radio telescope's dismantling. The new facility in Puerto Rico is formerly known as the NSF Arecibo Center for Culturally Relevant and Inclusive Science Education, Computational Skills, and Community Engagement. According to its website, the center is building on the legacy of the radio telescope, serving as an epicenter of STEM education research and skill building. Conferences, meetings, and workshops will be held there, along with public science programs. An assistant director of the Science Foundation, James L. Moore III, said in a public statement that the center will embrace all ranges of science, from astronomy and radio science to biology, computer science, and natural science. Students and educators visited the center this past summer to attend some of the programs that were launched on a pilot basis. This is Andy Morrison, K9 AWM.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news since 1976 at arnewsline.org. With Randy Sly, W4XJ, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, Andy Morrison, K9AWM, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wellbanks, AE5DW. 7-3, we'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.
All right. Well, Don, we hope you're having a lot of fun. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks, good buddy. But I think it's time, Amanda. Are we going to ham it, can it, or what am it?
We have a ham it, can it, or what am it? Yeah, let me share my screen here.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
It's ham it, can it, or what am it, or really? Okay.
Oh, we're continuing to add more craziness. Good. Yes.
It is craziness. All right, everyone see my screen?
Yeah, 1 second. The stream will catch.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
we see it. Ooh.
I
You
ran
can hear me
upon
too,
this
right?
gem.
We're good?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I ran upon this gem on Instagram, and this was my what am it. I didn't know what it was, but it looked like an old dot matrix printer. Evidently,
Is it a teletype?
yes, from the 1970s is what headquarters said, and they use it for RIDI contests. So this somehow spit out the also the RIDI messages.
Yeah, that's I
And
think
they
it's the
said-
ticker
yeah.
tape, and then
Yeah.
it's also paper tape on top. That's
Yeah,
cool.
Isn't that cool? I
Oh,
was
yeah.
wow. They went above and beyond on keeping that. This is my shut up and take my money. This is a cute CW little rig, and this gal, and I have no idea where she's from. I don't even know her name, but it's a Morse code machine. It's just awesome. I would
wonder-
love to have one.
So that must be her call?
Possibly. I didn't look it up. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I thought it was pretty cool myself. And this is an install. This company is from Saudi Arabia, so I know that nobody here is planning on purchasing this, but it was so clean. Look at the head. I know it's really distant. Let me zoom in there. It's just really pretty. Just a really simple install for the head of your mobile radio.
Yeah,
really
there's that 2730.
Yep.
That's definitely a Hammett. Although being horizontal like that does maybe obstruct vision a touch.
I'm not sure.
I'm
Second
curious,
thing, I was like pretty amazed if this is actually in Saudi Arabia that they have GMCs. Like that's what they drive.
That looks very America right there. I don't know. That's.
I thought so too, but it's a Saudi Arabian company that sells these little install get in their custom made for each vehicle, so it will fit into that little panel. That I can't think of the name of it right now. Where the handle is right there. It's just pretty slick.
We always recommend be cautious. I love those kind of heads-up display, but make sure that if the airbag try that again. Make sure that if the airbag deploys, you're not wearing that radio on your
forehead. Good advice, definitely. All right, this is my question of the month. Asking for a friend, how well are those rapid radios working in Western North Carolina and Tennessee? Out of curiosity, I would love to know if anyone actually made them work. If anyone actually bought
wish
them.
I had a slide whistle right now to go. That's what I need for the show, for my own little soundboard. Yeah, if you lose cell connection, then those are kaput. Right?
I'm guessing, because they run on LTE, so I'm guessing they didn't work for you know what.
And I don't think they work off Wi-Fi. So
no.
There you go.
So you got a $350 little anchor or doorstop.
Cases, but
yeah. This was really cool. This guy's in Five Land and captured some aurora. He had some beautiful pictures, so I thought it was really amazing. And this one is the one in Seattle. Excuse me. And just some beautiful shots that he put up there. And I missed a lot of those kind of things because of so much disaster stuff that I had been following. I haven't been watching much ham radio, except for that we've been having serious X flares. It's too bad we didn't have a Dr. T forecast. It would have been amazing. There would have been a lot of whooshes. Anyhow, it's SSTV week from the International Space Station. So hopefully everybody's got their rigs turned on during the day and are recording so they can decode later. So they'll be sending those out until the 14th of October. So there's 12 different ones, I believe.
Yeah, there's a website that shows all of the images they're downlinking, and I believe this is the first time in 2 years that they've done this.
I think so. It's been a long time. So enjoy that this week, everybody that's into it. And what was this about? Let me read. Sorry, I downloaded some things without looking at them. They are airdropping. Oh, okay. So basically, still love your hobby, and amateur radio is definitely not out of the picture just because Starlinks can be airdropped and people have Starlinks at their home. I'm sorry. Amateur radio is still extremely important, and don't say it's a non-issue. Go ahead.
Put all of your eggs in one basket and be like, this is the way, is always a surefire method to failure. Right? That's why we talk about the PACE plan on the channel, where you have your primary communication, your alternate, your contingency, and emergency. Starlink should definitely be a part of your arsenal if you want that. But to say you can't have ham radio or GMRS or FORS or shouldn't is just not
Or
smart.
that it's obsolete now? Wrong. No. Completely wrong. Yeah. Keep it in your arsenal for sure. And if not more.
And Amanda,
yes.
Can you go back one photo? And everybody knows what that is. That is Sputnik.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
I didn't even recognize it. It was
Sputnik, the first amateur radio satellite. And it signaled dit. The word hi, as if it were laughing at us as it went over.
And it was, I see it now, on October 4th, 1957. USSR launched. You were there.
The first space-based trolling.
Yeah. Remember, well, no, you guys don't, you were not around, but we could actually see it too. It was bright.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, and here's another one of it.
And it transmitted at 15.01, and it was clear as a bell for about 4 minutes.
That's cool.
All right. And this dude, an amazing mobile setup here.
I know
this
Pete.
guy is great. Do you?
Yeah, he's on the HRCC Discord, and I talked to him on Instagram. This is the rolling command center. Look at this thing.
Holy camole, this thing is just amazing. He's got a flex radio in there. I mean, I can't even name all the equipment, and it's super clean and beautiful. It's just an amazing, and it caught my eye right away. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Great.
He has an Instagram. That's his Instagram. Make sure you go follow him. He has a ton of really cool pictures and explanations on how to set things up and what he does.
Okay, and I'm gonna assume this is like one of the best like Jeep Rubicons there is, because I see Jeep on the steering wheel, but I'm just assuming it's like the vehicle matches the install.
No, it's wonderful, and he's doing like 40 miles per hour, and he's ready to ram that tree.
No. We don't operate like that while we're driving, right?
Yes.
So anyhow, nice setup there, Pete. And WinLink, they were asking for everybody to stop sending your normal traffic messages right now, so that they can keep everything open for health and welfare.
Oh,
so
that's a good message. Yeah.
Yes. So stay out. I know a lot of people do like weekly, just their Aries training and stuff. Don't do it this week, please. Keep it all free for all those messages to get where they need to.
Absolutely.
And that is the end of my hammock cannon, or what I am at.
That was good, because it was a good informational stuff too. I like that. You're turning this into you're just increasing the boundaries of this cool segment you created. So good job.
So it's just like, things that are random to discuss, or random things I've seen, or let's squash some rumors kind of things. So, whatever.
And look at General. He's like getting ready to add something to that script.
Oh, yeah, General. You feel free to jump in. Yeah.
It's totally free for all. And I was going to bring it up, and then I was, I'm just going to talk about it. Half the internet now thinks that HARP is controlling our weather, and that these hurricanes are on purpose. And if that's what you believe, just stop following me on my social media pages. Okay, enough said.
Well, we gotta put down the conspiracies long enough to get people out of the trenches and the all the mess that they're in, and figure it out later. Like let's decrease the noise floor on the internet and allow the emergency traffic to get through without us dirtying it up with all these crazy conspiracy
and
theories.
I don't even want to talk about, I clicked on hashtag sad ham, and I regret all of my life decisions after doing that on Twitter. So
we got an instant update from Frank, who is also on YouTube, Ham Radio Wilderness. He says, going back to that pink Kier, that was, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, Tugsi or Tugsi? Tuji from TA3 from Turkey. She was on my channel for a CQ chit chat. And
very
I did
interesting.
end up finding her.
Wow.
She's on QRZ as well. So there you go. And she is in Turkey. So, hey.
Oh, great. Well, hopefully someday I can make a QSO with her and tell her she has an awesome CW Kier.
Yeah, go check out Frank's channel to find that interview. That's cool.
Oh, definitely. Thank you, Frank, for sharing that. Okay, that's the end of the show.
Yes.
The nets, I don't think Kev is hosting the 40-meter net tonight. I don't know where he is in Florida, but no matter where it is, unless he's in the Keys or in the Panhandle, he is not on amateur radio tonight. So look for Steve on 14268. And other than that, just be vigilant on the air and keep the airwaves open in case there are emergencies. And I have no idea what kind of traffic could come out of those areas, but let's hope they have it coordinated and ready to accept any emergency or welfare traffic at this point in time. And Godspeed to everybody in Florida right now. That's all I can say.
Yeah, if you are new to amateur radio and you have your general license, I guess you don't even need your general license. You could go to WebSDR or Kiwi SDR, and you could be monitoring the HF Hurricane Net now. So the reminder is it's 14.325 for 20 meters. And what's the 70-meter frequency?
7268.
Yep.
7.268. Very good.
And Saturn and the other repeater system, NI4CE, are on Broadcastify. For anybody that's curious on how they're handling things, I listened to it shortly before the show went live, and I was already hearing about roofs blowing off and things like that. So it's on land, and we'll see what happens after that. So, but don't forget, 14 Charlie on D-Star as well is taking place, so join in on there. Thank you to all of our net controls, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight and watching. We miss you, Dawn, and we'll see you back here next time. That's up for discussion, isn't it, Josh?
Oh, he's always welcome back. He
Of
just
course.
keeps bringing that dry humor we love so much, and he's always
I know.
welcome. So, as
I'm
are
kinda
all
glad
of you watching us. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, I'm glad he missed this episode because him being a Katrina survivor sometimes gives him a little bit of PTSD to have these discussions about hurricanes. So
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
definitely.
So, Dawn, we
come
love you.
see John.
Go
Go ahead,
sorry.
Josh.
No, I just said, Dawn, we love you. Thanks. We'll see you again. But
Yeah.
Gordo, what were you going to say?
Yeah, see Josh and Gordo at Pacificon. I'll be in the ARRL booth most of the time, so stop by and say hi.
I guess the cat's out of the bag. I decided to go today. So I'm going to Pacificon. So I guess you'll see me out there. If you're coming to Pacificon, come say hi.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Well, that was the secret.
Ah,
Sorry.
it's no big deal. It's all good. All right, everybody. We're going to wrap up the show. Thanks so much for watching. And 73 to y'all. Have a great rest of the weekend. And
7-3.
stay safe, everybody, too, if you're affected by the hurricanes.
Yes.